Hello viewers, well, it's time for the annual pilgrimage to the EAG show in East London at the Excel Centre to catch up on the latest arcade machines, and as you can see, Daytona is back. Daytona 3 was being shown here, still not a finished version, but you can see all the cabs lined up like the good old days, of course. You know, you're always enjoying seeing those in the big arcade, so I jumped on for a run. There's going to be a separate video looking at this. As you can see, the handling still needs some work. There's still a lot of work needed on the machine at the moment. The final track isn't in place, or there's two tracks still to be added. Two versions. As you can see here, this is the beginner track. It's been remade, and of course they've got the Daytona itself in there as well. You know, at the moment, I have to say it's pretty disappointing from what I've seen. The fact that this track is even in there, it was an arcade game, it was an arcade sort of racing fun game, it wasn't a NASCAR game, and I think that's the thing, is nobody really connected it to NASCAR, even though it's called Daytona. You can see one of the other tracks here. I think this is the Lakeside. Basically it's a back to front advanced circuit, so the new circuits essentially are just simply the old circuits with you know, just sort of bits moved around a bit. I'm going to talk more about this in a lot of detail on a separate video looking at Daytona 3. So you'll be seeing all the sort of GoPro footage, my runs on these various different circuits, trying to, you see really slight movements on the wheel. You'll see the car moving quite a lot when I just do slight tilts, almost like it's a digital control added to the wheel. It was very difficult getting the car around smoothly. And again, you can see that from the GoPro. And we're going to go through all of that in great detail in an extended video. But first impressions, disappointing from my point of view, and I'm very disappointing in fact, and I'm going to go through more of that. But either way, that was still enjoyable to see at the show to an extent. We'll see if they can continue to develop it and improve and, you know, work on various criticisms. Storm Racer G was being shown again, a new version of that. We've shown Storm Racer G in the past, but this was a new big cabinet version, and this was more impressive. I mean, it was graphics wise, it's nice visuals, it's always got a phenomenal feeling of speed, this game, so smooth. Challenge wise, there's not an awful lot of challenge to it, but this is about as much challenge as you get in a modern arcade racing game. Either way, it was nice to see there. A lot of movement in the cabinet as well. I don't know how many of these we'll see around. I will point out that the cabinet looks sort of a purple colour, but in actual fact it's fluorescent blue. So the lighting you're seeing there is actually blue in real life, not this sort of pinky purple. It's just the way the camera picks up on it. But either way, the first one was a lot of fun to play. It's probably my game of the show a couple of years ago, and nice to see it back there as well. See a couple of people enjoying themselves. That I don't know how much this arcade machine costs, but it's probably quite expensive. You'll probably see this at larger complexes, cinemas and such like. But either way, it was nice to see. And of course, you have a game here, Splash. Now the game itself didn't look very special until it actually got running, and it was quite a bumpy ride for those who were playing. I was quite impressed with how much the machine was moving around. People hanging on for dear life while they were playing, but they seem to have a lot of fun. Again, like all these arcade machines, it's relatively basic. Hang on for dear life, go at full speed and just steer from side to side. Just having a wander around the show, I saw this Ghostbusters machine, which was kind of unusual. On the one hand, it's sort of your standard shooter game, but you can see they're firing ping pong balls at the screen. So we're fighting Vigo the Carpathian with ping pong balls. Pretty unusual. I don't think this is necessarily brand new. I think it was re-released last year for the movie, but it's very bizarre. And surprisingly, the balls are quite accurate actually on the screen as well, which I thought was quite impressive in its own unique way. But a new spin on an old genre. There are tables and stuff like that around, and lots of little bits and pieces you see in the arcades. And of course, Time Crisis 5, which isn't necessarily new, but it was there. Storm Rider, This was next to Storm Racer G, so my assumption was it was by similar developers. Bit of bike game action. These are always pretty simplistic, but in their own way they're fun to play. I remember it reminds me of like when I first played on like cyber cycles and stuff like that in the mid-90s. Then these other sort of giant retro arcade machines. We saw one of these last year, the Pac-Man. That's actually a Pac-Man Galaga that's I think switchable on the side there. But this was sort of a 2D, sort of two-player shooting game. Obviously you're shooting up at the Space Invaders. The game was largely impossible though, unless you have two really skilled, experienced players. You can see how difficult it is to kill the ones that get really low. I mean, wow, they get to you very quickly. Some of these I'm going to put as an extended videos on the Team VV Games channel, just for those that you would like to see that just running properly. What's this? Pump It Up Prime 2. People doing their old school DDR style, and of course Nintendo were there as well. Nintendo are often at these shows with Mario Kart, but Cruisin Blast, the long sequel to Cruising USA, was there. I jumped on this as well for a spin. Now this game, rather unusually, doesn't include a brake pedal. It only has an accelerator. So you just put your foot down, go from side to side, and press your boost button now and again. And that's it. Driving around London here. There'll be a separate extended video coming for this game as well, just to show the various environments. But again, it was visually, I mean, lots of detail there, very smooth. You know, nicely put together in its own way. It just in terms of overall skill, well, it's more of a modern arcade game, isn't it? You know, you just steer from side to side and have nice views, feel like you're on a roller coaster, and then jump off again. It's always quite an intense experience. But nevertheless, there were some very unusual vehicles to use in the game as well, and very unusual circuits. And you can see here from some of my onboard GoPro racing around what was supposed to be Singapore. It was very impressive visually, but also very unusual as well. So yes, Cruisin Blast. More on that going to be coming on a separate video in the future. Elsewhere we had Crazy Tower. Just to finish up now, Crazy Tower. This was weird. It was a holographic. Well, it wasn't holographic. It was using a projector, but it created a different image that from different sides of the cabinet 4 people could play, and they had essentially what looked like a hologram hovering in the middle, depending on which side you were looking at. It's very, very strange. So you have cubes coming in. You have to press the button at the right time so you don't lose any of your cube. Just one button control. Very addictive and irritating in its own way, because it seems so easy, and then all of a sudden they change the speed the blocks come in, and they make it faster and slower, and they mess you about. And eventually they start changing speed as they're coming. So it's very tricky. But that's it from me for now, for this show, and there'll be more from me very soon.